What is up, my fellow viewers? This is Zigg the Otaku, and welcome to another honest review. So, Fate Apocrypha. That one anime I fell in love the moment I saw the promotional video for the first time. That one anime I was so excited about, but after watching the 25 episodes, I felt so disappointed, almost desperate to the point I wish it wasn't true. And in this video I will give you my thoughts about this anime and try to present my arguments, explaining how this show could have been a freaking masterpiece. If you have seen my previous weekly anime news video, you probably knew this was coming. As per usual, this video will contain spoilers to the entire story of Fate Apocrypha. You have been warned. Like in most Fate series, Fate Apocrypha sets up the plot from the very beginning, starting off with a declaration of war by a clan named Zigg after an attempt of retrieving the Holy Grail War by the Mages Association. To put into perspective, the Holy Grail was stolen after the Third Holy Grail War in Fuyuki by the Zigg clan, in which they were still part of the Mages Association. Fast forwarding to the present time of the events of Fate Apocrypha, time of the supposedly 5th Holy Grail War, the Magi members from Mages Association that were on the mission to retrieve the Grail were all killed, aside from one surviving Magi that was able to activate part of the Grail, in which enabled the summoning of 14 servants, making this Holy Grail War a two-team battle between 14 servants. 7 servants for the Black faction that represent the Zigg clan, and 7 other for the Red faction to represent the Mages Association. On top of that, an extra member is summoned to the battlefield, taking the role of ruler, who is basically one of the main protagonists responsible for overseeing the war, making sure everyone follows the rules. The ruler does not have a master, unlike the other servants that were summoned. And last but not least, I could not forget the other main protagonist, Zigg, who's a homunculus saved by the Rider of Black, quote unquote, a heart transplant from the heroic Siegfried. But hey, I'm not here to make a summary of the story, nor delve deep into the lore, otherwise I'll be here talking for hours. If you wish to know more about all the characters, feel free to read the novels or check out the wiki. One cannot deny that this anime series is filled with interesting characters, in which most of them are embodiments of personalities that existed in the history of mankind, with complex backgrounds and interesting personalities. There is so much to be said about the complex world of Fate Apocrypha, and yet we only see small glimpses here and there about these amazing characters and the lore behind it. However, Fate Apocrypha starts off with the wrong foot, since we have a lot of characters to cover, making this show a lot to swallow right off the bat. Naturally, the anime focuses mostly on the fights, and leaves barely any space left for the characters themselves. I know, this is Fate, and it is all about the Holy Grail War, but if you have such a vast cast, with servants that literally represent historical figures and heroes in mythologies, you are kinda supposed to deep dive into their lore. The fact that this show must cover over 15 characters with different backgrounds, it becomes really overwhelming for the viewer to even feel attached to any of them. Not to mention that the beginning was really underwhelming and tasteless, with a lot of information about the plot, regardless of its comeback, 1/3 of the way to its ending, with better pacing and overall more interesting story plot points. However, certain characters were really underwhelming, starting off with Zigg. But before I continue with my argument, I'd like to clarify that I did read the novels, and despite the similarities we see in the anime compared to the reading materials, I have to say that Zigg's character development was poorly conceived. It is true that he has gone through the normal phases of character progression, since we know he started off as quote unquote a newborn without any character traits or any ambitions, which is totally understandable. What I dislike though is his lack of motivation and overall inconsistency in his character development. In the beginning, he knew nothing about the world, about the people, about the complex nature of the human being. However, learning about his surroundings ever since he got out of that tank, I was expecting Zigg to have a deeper desire to be a better person, to thrive through the horrible things people would do to homunculus, and fight for a better place. Instead, we see a Zigg that falls all over the place, without enough resolution to what he really wanted to do with his life, despite being a short one. Zigg had the support of 4 heroic spirits, including Histolfo, Jeanne d'Arc, Chiron, and even Siegfried. And with their tales being told, he still was really unsure of what he should do with himself. We get small glimpses of Sieg's inner thoughts without precise context. If anything, I believe Sieg should at least be motivated to fight for his brethren, for how much they suffered and were still suffering. Hopefully, Siegfried was able to balance his character a little bit, but he still remained the bland character. Not only Sieg's personality had an inconsistent pace of progression, but the way he reacts to the different life experiences baffles me even more. After the fight against the Assassin of Black, where Sieg finally realizes the complex nature of humans, they simply high-five each other as if anything ever happened. It was an important moment to Sieg's development, and it was ruined while not emphasizing this moment enough, making his character being seen like a clueless person. If we talk about Jeanne, I believe it was a huge mistake to build a main character such as herself, with an interesting background and with such an active role as an historical figure, and being granted the most passive role in the story of Fate Apocrypha. It did not make sense to me. Hopefully she did receive a lot of background explanation and we got to see more action and more about her as a person, especially in the end, in which did save her character in general. Siegfried was the most waste of character in my opinion, sacrificing himself to save a homunculus. I mean, I understand his background and the reasons behind his selfless acts, as it is part of his historical background. It is in his blood and I get that. But being a legendary hero with such a badass design, and us viewers seeing that amazing battle between him and Mordred being thrown away after the first 4 episodes? I mean, are you serious? Other characters that had huge potential to save the show were unfortunately thrown away, serving as an excuse to narrow down the cast number, like Mordred and Kairi, that would have made a better protagonist duo than Jeanne and Sieg. Mordred for being a charismatic young girl with a tacky personality within a time frame of 20 minutes for the entire show paid much more than most of Sieg's entire screen time. Another character I wish I've seen more, and you may believe I'm being biased here, in which I probably am. But, is freaking Histolfo. Look, I consider Histolfo as one of my favorite characters, not only because of his design, but also because he has a carefree personality, and yet being a good person towards strangers, without hesitating to help out others whenever he needs to, just like he did with Sieg. Not only that, but the number of comedic scenes this dude contributed towards the show, it really prevented me to give this show a 1 out of 10, honestly. These two were the only characters I felt a connection, and they probably were the positive aspects I have to say about the anime. The masters from the Black faction that made an appearance throughout the show also had an interesting background that was left with a brief mention, such as the relationship between the 2 siblings or the young Golomancer that had a tragic ending. Darnik himself, for example, literally being the responsible for the events of Fate Apocrypha, made a brief appearance with 30 seconds of explanation in the very first episode, only to be forgotten and never mentioned again. Furthermore, an antagonist such as Shiro with a concise objective was the staggering point for the first time in the show, with the plot being put into motion, leading to the final battle in the Hanging Gardens with a bit of plot twists regarding the seemingly absent masters from the Red faction to his ultimate plan to quote-unquote save humanity. When it comes to animation quality and sound effects, it is obvious that we could not expect to get such quality like we see, for example, in Fate Unlimited Blade Works, and this statement is apparent throughout most of the story. We could say that there were moments where the animation felt really underwhelming, especially that rematch between Siegfried and Karna in the Hanging Gardens. The quality was really lacking. The fighting choreographies were nevertheless pretty good, and the sound effects were also great. Coming from A1 Pictures, I was, however, expecting a better job from their part. Of course, this is not Ufotable we are talking about. But still, A1 also has a decent reputation for animating good stuff, especially those action-based anime stories. If we go into the soundtrack, I believe without a shadow of a doubt that this is one of the best, if not the best host in the Fate series, with an amazing soundtrack that you could expect out of grandiose and valiant battles between heroes of legend, from the orchestral and intense melodies to the harmonious soundtracks that are well executed and feel to be appropriate to each moment. Overall, I believe this Fate series has a special place in my heart for being the most disappointing Fate series ever. There was a lot of expectations from me when I saw the different character designs and how their background would be so enriching to the story if well executed. Despite the beautiful ending that connects the beginning between the dragon, aka Zigg, and Jeanne d'Arc, symbolizing their eternal love, the poor execution and overall inconsistent pace in the different plot points made it clear that we were dealing with an average anime that felt so disengaging for the audience without anything even matter in the story. It pains to me to talk about Fate Apocrypha with such disdain and criticism, but believe me, I had high hopes for this anime, for the characters that are so my cup of tea, with an amazing soundtrack. But I can't simply ignore the inconsistencies, the bad presentation, and the bad character development from Zigg as the main protagonist. Nevertheless, I believe there was too much to be said, too much to be shown with only 25 episodes. If anything, I believe this anime deserves a remake simply because the lore itself is amazing, with great and unique character designs, and truth be told, there's a lot of room for improvement if there ever is an intention for a remake, in which I highly doubt, to be honest. And with this, guys, my final verdict for Fate Apocrypha will be a score of 4 out of 10. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed. It took me a great deal of work to finish up this video for you guys since my laptop had failed me, hence the reason I had to upload this video a day later. Therefore, I would kindly appreciate if you could subscribe to my channel and share it with your fellow anime lover friends. It would mean a lot to me, to be honest. And yeah, stay tuned for this weekend's anime weekly news. And don't forget to watch your daily dose of anime because it's good for your brain and heart. Take care, and I'll see y'all in the next video.